profound and wondrous Dharma is rarely encountered, even in 100 million kalpas. Having it to hear, accept, and maintain, may I taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. Good morning. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Hold on a second. Okay. To begin this morning, I just want to invite us all to take a few moments of deep breath, and to just, if you like, to arrive in our bodies. So if it's helpful to you, just you can close your eyes or have your gaze downward and just see if you can locate your attention in your physical body, in the sensations that are there this morning, and in maybe in the points of contact you have with the ground, whether you're sitting or standing or lying down, where your body is supported by the ground. And just take a few moments to feel your breath and feel that stability of where you're supported by the earth, whatever's below you. Thank you for arriving with us. This morning is a little bit unusual, and it looks like there's a couple people who may be new to Stone Creek. So welcome if you are new to Stone Creek. And also, just so you know, this is a little bit of an unusual morning where both Kōrin, Charlie, and my name is Sarah, or Dōjin is my Dharma name. I use the pronouns she and her. We are together the head priest at Stone Creek. And it's unusual that we talk together. We did once a long time ago when we were candidates for coming. But we want to bring what we have to bring this morning together to the Sangha. I've heard this story told many times that Suzuki Roshi, the founder of the San Francisco Zen Center, the founding teacher there, one time he was asked, "Can you please just sum up Buddhism in a couple words?" Which was kind of a silly question. But he did a really awesome thing in replying, everything changes. And Suzuki Roshi, I think, was compassionately pointing to the way that Buddhist practice supports us to live with the reality of impermanence and change. And part of what we are bringing this morning is about change. And I always actually, especially on Zoom, I like to ask us all to arrive in our bodies because it's so easy to not be. But especially this morning, I wanted to have us ground in our bodies and really welcome our attention for each of us in our own embodied experience. Because what we are bringing is about change. And it may be confusing or surprising or maybe even shocking, certainly for many unexpected. And each of us will hear that depending on what's happened in our life around change, the losses that we have, or when things have been disrupted for us in the past. And so I invite you to just really engage your practice of careful and loving attention as you take in what we're saying and see how it lands for you and what it brings up. and maybe just don't have any filter about it. Just notice and compassionately attend. So what we want to bring this morning is a decision that Charlie and I and our family, and in conjunction with a lot of conversations with many others, including Jisho, have decided that by the summer of 2022, we will move away from Sebastopol. So that's the main piece that we're bringing. And this includes having to find someone to take our places at Stone Creek. So I'm just gonna give us a moment to hear that. I can, in myself, I feel, I do want to go on to tell you some of the reasoning behind this. And there are many factors actually that are going into this decision. It's not an easy decision. And I feel a lot of grief in it, and pain and loss, among other things. So I do want to talk about those factors because we love you. Because we love the Sangha, because we love our life here, and have had, it's just such a gift to have had this unexpected, when we moved to Sebastopol, it wasn't with the intention of teaching at Stone Creek, it was just this wonderful gift that came about from that. And so, and it's been such a gift that we want to take very good care of it in this transition. And maybe if you hear nothing else, because that might just be enough to process right there. What I do want to add to that is that for me, this isn't. I think sometimes maybe in the societies and the cultures that I've been raised in, I was never raised to really do well with loss and change, for one thing. I mean, I'm grateful for practice for that. And for helping me have a different relationship to loss and change. And one of the things that I have seen enacted so much in my life, of myself or people around me, is that when there's going to be an ending, there's a lot of machinations in the mind to make it like, well, the thing I'm leaving is bad and the thing I'm going to is good. And that is just so not what's happening here for me. Anyway, it's just complicated. And I feel really settled and clear about it. But it's not a dualistic decision. Maybe that's what I want to say. And my love for all of you and for Stone Creek will absolutely be a part of my life going forward. And I know I'm not speaking out of turn to say that's true for Charlie as well. So I do want to let you all know where this decision's coming from and some of the factors that are moving it forward. Actually, so we began talking with Jisho about this in the fall, and the three of us have been talking about this for a number of months, wanting to take really good care in how we bring this to the Sangha and what the timeline is. And I can say honestly that it's a lower down factor for me. If I have to put, if I have to kind of order the factors, probably the highest thing on the list is our son and his life and development, and wanting our family with him to live in a more diverse environment. Our son often, because he's not white, he often has the experience of being one of a very few number of people of color as he moves around in his life in Sebastopol, just because of the demographics here. And he's certainly, there are many people in his life who are people of color, and in his daily life even. And one of the big factors for us is over many years, we've been listening to the voices of adults who are transracial adoptees, and hearing what it's like for those who lived in predominantly white places and those who didn't, or whose parents made a decision to move to a more diverse environment. And those voices and those perspectives have had a big impact on us. And they're very alive for me. And so Loka, our son, is 9 now. So our daughter is about to go to college. And I also want for her in some ways to have a more diverse environment, but she's going to NYU, so she probably will get that. and our son, it feels like, and I mentioned him and that factor because he only, we really, because our daughter's 18 and we see how quickly the arc of childhood is, and he's only 9, we feel like this is a precious next 10 years that we have with him. And what will we make of it, and where will we be, and what will the community be around him and around us? And so that puts a little bit of a time pressure on it that's different than if we weren't parenting him, if that makes sense. But when we began talking to Jisho about this, it was in the middle of fire season last year. And I can honestly say, and this is also partly about our son, it's very difficult to be a parent through these fire seasons. I'm not alone in this. A lot of our friends who are parenting young children are struggling with a decision of whether or not to continue to raise our families here. As it got into like 30 plus days that our children can't go outside because they can't breathe. I remember talking to Jisho somewhere in the midst of that and just feeling like, I don't know if it's conscionable for us to keep trying to raise a kid in this environment. It's really difficult. And I can say for myself too, the fire seasons are really taxing physically, I think because I have some lung damage from being in an unprotected environment of a fire season many, many years ago. And also just in our nervous systems, when like those months go on and we don't know if we're being evacuated. And for kids too, the schools, like there hasn't been soccer season for years now in Sebastopol. There hasn't been, like their school gets interrupted. School will get canceled when the air quality is bad enough. And I just offer these because I know, not many people in our Sangha are parenting young children, but that these are factors that are there. And when I went to talk to Jisho, I was like, I don't think I can live through another fire season. I don't think I want to, or I don't know if that's the best thing we can offer our family. But then as we talked, all 3 of us together, and then Charlie and I independently, it became really clear that it's super important to us that this transition is handled with great care. And that one of the ways we can do that is to just give a lot of space to it, and not try to rush it, and not try to, just like leave a lot of room for finding who's going to succeed us, and having time for them to come, maybe by Zoom at first, but then also like a good amount of time for people to come personally, and for the Sangha to make a decision about who is the best fit for them, for everybody, for who would succeed us. And so that felt really good to just feel into how important that is to me, as a person, but also as a priest, and in this position that we've been privileged to hold of being head priest at Stone Creek, and to let this sense of urgency soften a little bit, and to let myself be changed by, settling and listening to Jisho and Charlie and myself. And in some ways, COVID, because of the pandemic and the way that things are limited, we have to slow down. And I actually am beginning to feel very much like that's a gift. And so that gives us, it's about a year and a half of a process That's tricky. I want to acknowledge that. You know, again, for myself, impending changes or loss, like in my life, traditionally, when I've left a job or something in the past, I like to kind of get it over with, you know, like that feeling of rip the band-aid off. um, it's asking, in some ways it's a gift to give a lot of space around this. In some ways it's asking a lot of all of us, that we will hold, knowing that this transition is out there and still all be together. I want to just stay with a lot of clarity that my intention is to fully be in this position of caring for Stone Creek as a head priest until that responsibility is handed to someone else. I particularly want to say to people who are doing the precepts this year that we will fully be here for that and for you. Um, yeah, and to me, it's not difficult to imagine. And another piece that I think I can see really clearly that may not be in people's experience is how I imagine my relationship with Stone Creek going forward to be ongoing, certainly different. I mean, I don't mean to minimize that us leaving physically is a massive change and a loss for us, for all of us in different ways. And having left, living many years at San Francisco Zen Center and having left there and continuing relationship there, for me, I have a picture of how that works and how it's possible to stay connected, even with distance and even with not being physically present there. So I also imagine that and I hope that actually that we stay connected, and that will be, you know, and already there are some folks that I talk to more than others, and I hope that we stay connected in the various ways that we already are connected, but differently. Loka's birth family lives in the area in Sonoma County, and we have a lot of not a lot, but we have a fair amount of contact with his birth family. And so if that alone, but also the many relationships that we have over the years, we will always be traveling back here at least once a year, I imagine, as long as, I don't know, as long as like transnational flights happen, which I think will probably be for my lifetime. We will make that sincere effort. We will, for him to be able to see his birth family, but for us to also stay connected to them and to the Sangha here and the community. And I want to give time for Charlie to say some things, and he'll explain also, he'll say more about what the process will look like going forward in the near future and the next few months as we can envision it. But I do want you to know that I really welcome the full range of responses. And I want to acknowledge that, you know, at Stone Creek, we're really a bunch of kind people, the predominant feeling. And I don't think this really comes from a place of repression. I think it comes from a place of maturity, that our Sangha has such a deep well of, that there's a lot of care and support and kindness, genuine kindness. And I want to be clear that if there are feelings of hurt or betrayal or confusion or, you know, abandonment, any of that, frustration, that those are also welcome, and we can hear them, and it's all right to bring them forward. So let's please find a way to take good care together in this. Turn it over to Charlie.
Thank you, Dōjin, and good morning, everyone. First, I want to just share something about my feelings in this. And, um, and the first thing I want to express is just deep gratitude. Deep
Excuse
gratitude for
me,
the
Kōrin,
opportunity
can you
to
speak a little bit
teach.
louder?
Oh,
The volume isn't very good.
She can't hear you.
just talk
Talk
louder.
louder.
Deep gratitude for the opportunity to be a teacher at Stone Creek, um, to offer talks, to meet in Doksan, uh, to sit zazen together, to chant together, to bow together, and to work with Jisho so closely over these years. And yeah, I've felt and I continue to feel honored to be able to practice together with all of you and uh, to grow in this practice of teaching. And it's a great treasure for me to feel supported to share my heart, to feel supported to inquire into how we deepen and share this practice, and to keep challenging myself uh, in every talk. And it's a joy to have among my responsibilities showing up for zazen, showing up for bowing and chanting and service and for each other. So I have deep regard and respect for this Sangha. And the next thing I want to just talk about is the kind of the not fun part, or the the hard part. This hasn't been an easy decision. Um, it's kept me up at night. It's kept me up in the middle of the night, and I don't I don't want to disappoint you or be a cause of difficulty, or a source or a condition for pain or confusion. Um, and as we go through this, we will each encounter what comes up for us and our stuff in this process. Um, and I can see my conditioning um, towards a condition towards a kind of caretaking, um, of where you abandon yourself to care for someone else. But we can't really care for others when we abandon ourselves. And so how I'm working with how I find my place in meeting what's here, and I can acknowledge that our decision will bring up what's coming up for you. And as Dōjin expressed, um, we are here to meet that and to practice with it together. Um, we want open expression. And our practice, I feel, involves, it's a kind of faith in the transformative potential, the liberative potential of intimate awareness, of being fully in touch with what's happening here, and also honest, receptive, brave conversation. Learning how to meet each other fully, and with care. Um, and so I feel a bit torn. I feel torn by this decision. If I could bifurcate, that would be nice. And this just considering this has been a contemplation of loss. And so we're looking at loss and what loss brings up for us. I'm not really good at loss. If Dōjin wants to throw something away, she's learned don't ask Charlie. I can think of a reason to keep anything. And so we're taking this step, with a deep sense of loss and eyes open. And the third thing I want to express is a commitment or resolve. Resolve to give myself fully to caring for the practice at Stone Creek, and to practicing together through this. So, resolve to show up fully for Ango, for our precept study group, um, for our, for this next year plus of practice together, and for this process of finding successors, and to care for our relationships and what happens. And so I offer that this is not an interruption of practice and not an interruption of Sangha. This is all practice. This is Sangha practice. And Sangha is not about something static. It's a dynamism of practicing together in nonstop change and impermanence. And, showing up fully is our practice, traversing gain and loss. When there is gain, what is being fully present? When there's loss, what is being fully present? And this is our endless, wondrous, liberating inquiry. And it embraces myriad losses and gains that we inevitably encounter. So this is my resolve, and my prayer that we share in this resolve together. So in terms of some process, we're starting with today's talk, and we'll have time for questions and comments and discussion today, and but then also next week we'll have a Sangha meeting for the Sunday talk, and that won't be live streamed on YouTube. So that'll be just our Zoom meeting, and after you've had some time to process this with a little bit more, that'll be a time to have a more extensive conversation. We'll probably break into small groups for a chunk, and then we'll probably have a whole big group discussion. Let's see. And we will continue to have Sangha meetings through this whole process. And so bringing up how we're feeling, our concerns, this will be part of the whole process. And also the process will shift into other logistical points about, how we proceed. But this checking in together is always part of it. And Sangha meetings, and then also, as Dōjin Sarah said, Jisho, Dōjin, and I invite you to speak to us, to meet with us for one-on-one conversations. We're here to, meet what is coming up. And then, we'll have more time to talk about this and see how the details unfold. But just the general outline of our processes, we will form a search committee over the next few weeks. The search committee will consist of probably Jisho and Dōjin and I and 2 Sangha members. And once that committee is formed, we'll develop a job description and put out the word and start meeting candidates. And then we envision having people come and give talks over Zoom over the course of the summer. And then hopefully in the fall, once conditions allow, once the Zendo renovation is complete, we'll shift into some in-person visits. And so that's part of the timing of this, of the spaciousness of this, is wanting to make sure that's part of our process. We didn't want this to be a Zoom thing from beginning to end. And we'll have Sangha meetings all along, and and move all together, one step at a time. And we also want this transition to take place after we've moved back into the Zendo, into our beautifully renovated Zendo. And overall, we want an open process and a caring process. Our practice is always a practice of being present through change, being awake in loss. And maybe we'll feel that in a slightly different way, or a certain particular way around this. And being fully present is our true teacher, and being awake is our true home. And so may we share in being fully present, may we share in being fully awake now and in the coming days and weeks and months and years and lifetimes. So, thank you very much.
Well, I'd like to say just a word, because yes, Charlie and Sarah and I have had basically 4 months already. It seems hard to believe it's that long to talk and process this. And frankly, I was angry at first. How can you go? How can you do this? And that kind of response is absolutely normal. So if that's your response, feel free to share it with a friend in the Sangha or outside or with one of us. And knowing that our responses then move on, especially if we acknowledge whatever they are at first so we don't bottle it up. That allows our responses to keep evolving. And it's very important that all of you understand that you, the Sangha, are absolutely central to this process. So when the search committee has a draft of a job description, it's going to go to the members. And the members of the Sangha are going to weigh in on it and discuss it. And later on, meet each of the people who give a talk or people who come, and you'll all be asked to give your feedback, each one, and to meet with people. So it's essential to know that we're all in this together. Charlie, Sarah, and I, and all of you, this is our shared process. And you, the Sangha, will be part of the final decision. We're not a top-down organization. I say the teachers lead, but the major decision will be made by the board and the members and I and all of us together will be making the selection. Charlie and Sarah will essentially lead the outreach on the search committee and bring it all back. The search committee will bring it all back to the Sangha. So at every step, your thoughts and feelings and reflections and reactions to every aspect of it are essential. They're not just welcome, really, they're essential so that we can, it's harder on Zoom. But for now, we will do it on Zoom. The only thing easier is inviting a lot of guest teachers to give talks, and that is easier. But for the rest, we have to make some more of an effort to experience ourselves as a Sangha doing this together. And we'll do that. So, and along the way, we'll be digesting the huge gifts we've received from Charlie and Sarah and the huge gifts we've given them and the whole way the Sangha has grown and deepened in these years. And so, you know, what feels like the rug is pulled out or an interruption, everything not only changes, everything is change. And that's how we do this. We do it there. If we accept that everything is change, then we can do this with the ground under us of change is our ground. And we can go forward lovingly and carefully and thoughtfully together, sharing this. So I look forward to more talk about this next week in the Sangha meeting. Enough from me today.
So again, just inviting, you know, that as Jisha put it, you know, there's usually a first pass when you get news that you're like, huh, really? I didn't see that coming. And then there's second and third and fourth, you know, responses. Oh, and I also do want to say, like, it's very natural to wonder, like, where are we going? And what are we doing? And it's not fully known, actually. Just to preemptively answer that question, we are beginning to have conversations and exploring possibilities and having our own process of discernment about that. And there's just so little access to actually exploring the possibilities yet that we are having to leave that a little bit unknown. We'll keep you posted as things become more clear about that. So please, are there any thoughts or questions or anything you'd like to share? And I want to ask you, you can let us know if, so far we're still recording and streaming on YouTube. Usually we do with our Q&A. If you'd rather not have your thing on there, just let us know. So go ahead and, yeah, Mary, go ahead.
I just want to say I remember meeting you through my daughter, Kendra, and it was way before I even started coming to the Great and Stone Creek, and house sitting at your house, taking care of the dogs and stuff when you would go away. And I just will miss you. And do you know where you're going? Oh. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'll miss you. And the house. It's a big old house. I really appreciate so much getting introduced to the Stone Creek Zendo through you and having that connection. And I do want to keep that connection with the Zendo. But wow, it's sort of unthinkable. And I don't even know if Kendra knows that you are leaving. Yeah. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Mary.
Hi, it's Roberta.
Hi, Roberta.
I just want to say I admire your courage to make the change. Can you hear me? Am I? Great. Oh, I've lost you for some reason.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I was saying that I admire your courage, and I am just so. I have. There's a tumult, a whole lot of feeling I have because Stone Creek and your particular guidance of and teaching of Buddhism for me has been such an intimate experience. And personally, I've benefited so much in my own growth and sharing some very vulnerable parts of myself and feeling safe in finally to have the support and wisdom really of both you and Kōrin and Jisoo, and the acceptance of my dichotomies and coming back and reframing myself. And many other people here have been much more involved than I have, but Stone Creek has been a huge influence on my life. And I'm going to feel a loss. I was looking forward to all of our coming together at some point in the Zendo and kind of taking, the memory I have of being part of that Sangha and in that building has always been very cherished. And I was looking forward to that, but it will be different. I'll continue. I think it takes so much courage to do what you're doing. And I admire you both so much. And I'm, of course, will wish you all the very best. I'm sure you're going to find what you need. Thank you. Love you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't think to say it when we were talking before, but I do. One of the things that I think we've acknowledged a few times, but I do want to like come back to is it today is, it's unusual for a founding teacher to have a person or people succeed them and have that go well. Just generally, I think, and Jisho and Charlie and I have talked about this a number of times that, in sanghas that we've seen in the United States where there's no, in other countries, in other Buddhist countries where there's there's more rules around succession and lineage, that there's more support. In the United States, it's always been, it's pretty fraught, and other sanghas look to Stone Creek and our sangha as one that is a model for how the founding teacher brings other folks into succeeding empowerment and have that go well. And there's a lot of pieces to that, including like Jisho and Kōrin and I work really hard at that. We do. So it's us, but I also want to point to it's the depth of maturity of our sangha is a really big part of that I think we maybe haven't named enough over the years, or I want you all to know that when people say like, wow, it's really amazing that that's gone so well. And I'm like, you know what it is? Number one, we all work really hard. And number two, the Sangha is really mature and stable and grounded and committed. And that's a resource here, in this next transition that I think that I want to name as part of what's present going forward.
Hi. My my first thought is echoes Kōrin's, is really gratitude for all the time that you've been around and will be around, and having a nice lengthy process to digest everything. And you know, parting is such sweet sorrow, right? It's you become friends, and you become part of my life, and you know, it makes me think about changes I've been through. I've made changes in my life. It's difficult, but we all have to work through it. And I just am so glad that that you're here, and appreciate everything you've brought to the Sangha and the care that you're taking with the transition. So thank you.
Well, it seems like if there's nothing more that wants to be said this morning, we can leave a few more moments for it. But again, so next week, what we'll do, instead of a talk, we'll have a Sangha meeting. We'll start off, Nikisha will say a few words, and then we'll have small groups, and then we'll all come together in a larger group. We'll let, you know, our Sangha, there's a number of folks that still feel really connected to Stone Creek that don't come by Zoom. And a number of those that you know, we're in touch with them, but you should know they haven't dropped off. They haven't dropped off the earth, and they also haven't dropped off in their relationship to Stone Creek. It's just that Zoom doesn't work for everybody for a number of reasons. But the YouTube videos get seen by a number of people at different times in the week also. So we'll be sure to send out an email that lets people know that this talk is here, and that this decision is happening, so that people do have an opportunity to come next week, and also to reach out to others in the Sangha and to us about this transition. Is there anything else that wants to be said?
After next week, there will not be these YouTubes?
No, we'll continue doing the YouTube.
Just next week we won't do it.
Next week we won't do the YouTube, just so people, you know, people don't necessarily want their Sangha meeting broadcast to the.
Yeah. So where will that be then?
That will be on Zoom. So we'll meet together just as we're meeting today.
And you'll send a link for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Barry, did you have something as well?
Yeah, I'll say something. First, thank you guys so much for your both your courage and also your the way you hold things. It's so beautiful. And I'll say my initial reaction was kind of shock and dismay. And it feels a bit like, what it feels a bit like to me is like when someone you've been in relationship with is telling you why they've got to leave. And like, you know, that the reasons are like, they're being true to themselves, and it's, you can't contradict that, right? But it still sucks. You know, it's still like really hard for your heart to accept it. And I think that's because of who you are and what you brought to the Sangha, and the way you hold things, and also who the Sangha is. Like, I feel like you are part of our family, you know, and that's not going to change. That connection's not going to change, but the way it manifests is going to change. And I'm attached to that. Like, I can feel my grasping to like the way it is, and it's a little disorienting, you know, to feel it in the moment, to just feel that wanting it to be different and knowing it's not, and knowing that it's not even necessarily a bad thing that it's not. Yeah, I'm really very, very grateful to you both that you're going to take this time. I think that's going to be very, very helpful to make for like a good intentional transition where we can take care of this container we've all created together. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Can I say something?
Yes. Please.
Okay. I've been on a self-determined talking quarantine for a while. Such a yacker. I just wanted to say that having been part of the first, search team, you two have turned out better than I could have ever dreamed. And you're completely irreplaceable. And who you've become with us, what you've done for us, it's been better than I could have dreamed. The three of you, what you've knit together is extraordinary. And while we can definitely and rightly put the emphasis on gratitude, which I felt every second, even before this announcement, for both of you, this is devastating. And Dōjin, when you introduced this with, this is all about change, I'm just going to say this little ticker tape is going, oh my God, divorce, death, moving, quitting Buddhism, what the heck? What's going on? Anyway, I just wanted you to know you're irreplaceable. We will replace you and you're irreplaceable. So from the bottom of my heart, so much love and thanks to all three of you. Jisho, you too.
Thank you, Jude.
Thank you.
I was trying to minimize the space between.
I was thinking it's getting a little low.
Yeah. And to Barry, I want to thank you to you both for expressing these other pieces, right? Like of shock and devastation. Not to like, we know anyway, it's like being broken up with. I also, the other day we went over to the Zendo to see the renovation and its progress, and Toan's there painting, pouring her love and devotion into that building, as so many of us and you have. And I think, seeing Rob on many Sundays and Kirby, like folks who have been part of the Sangha that now live farther afield, there's this encouragement for me about like, there's already at Stone Creek, there's a sense of like how the relationship can continue even when somebody moves away. And that feeling of family is totally, thank you for naming that, Barry, because that's the feeling I have, Dharma family. We're like totally not quitting Buddhism. Wouldn't that be? That'd be a whole different talk. Okay. Well, thank you. It feels like there's been a beautiful array of expression already. And again, we'll have time, and we'll have next week for more specifically, and we'll have time going forward. In fact, you might get annoying. Like, okay, thanks, bye, but you're still here. My sincere hope is that we overlap with whoever is succeeding us for like months. That we could really step down and not necessarily be paid by Stone Creek, but we'll still be here. And just be a resource, So That's my wish. Okay.
I was wondering, for those of us who can't be here next week, is there any way you could record it on Zoom and just send it to a small, like a internal group?
Yeah, we can do that. We can, yeah, so we'd record it on Zoom. We'll let people know we're doing that, and then so you could watch it later. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can't be here and there's something you'd like to bring, you could also email that. We'd be happy to read thoughts and responses as well. Okay. Thank you for bringing that forward, Keiko. Okay, because we did the opening chant, we'll do the closing. I'll put that in the chat. I'm just going to check, make sure that. For great Bodhisattva beings are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates are infinite, I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is boundless, I vow to realize it.